Hello.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Dr. Rainer, for giving me immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Parmeshwaran Ramakrishnan. So uh, he has done his graduation and post graduation from India. Both thereafter, he has done his PhD from United States. Mm, and he is currently a child and adolescent psychiatry fellow in fellow towards health department of psychiatry, Phoenixville, Drexel University, Philadelphia, United States. He has several awards and scholarship at Harvard, Stanford, GTU, UC Berkeley, and he's clinical director and PI research of Adivata Foundation of the Spirituality and Medicine, New Delhi. He has done many peer review for several psychiatry related journal, and he has more than 50 national and international publication and presentation on the intersection of the religion in spirituality and medicine psychiatry. His area of interest is teaching neuroscience based spirituality and care, and UG. He is actively involved in UG and PG medical education and clinical training and research interest and intersection of the religion, psychiatry, and spirituality. He is also planning to start fellowship program on evidence-based spirituality for integration of the Ayush allopathic medical education system. So these are the few things about him. So I am handing over to Dr. Uh, Parmeshwar Ramakrishnan for his presentation. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Param.
Thank you. Vipul, thank you so much for introducing me so nicely. I also want to thank my other colleagues, Dr. Srivastava and Vipul himself, and Aliki. I heard all of you very keenly, and you made your presentation. Your presentations made my own presentation more easy. So now I'll start with mine. Let me share you my slides. Okay. Hope you're able to see my slides.
yes.
Okay. I hope it doesn't shrink when I convert it into a presentation mode or slideshow. Okay. It has not shrunk. Thank you so much. So now you can see it in a big way, right? Clearly?
Yes, we can see Dr. Param.
Okay, thank you. So this is my chosen topic, from Dharma Yuddha, which is holy war, to modern warfare, the physical, psychiatric, and spiritual dimensions of war. My focus is on spirituality, though I have underlined psychiatric also. For me, psychiatry is in itself spiritual. The word psyche, I take it to the roots of the Greek roots, where psyche means soul. So in that way, for me, psychiatry is itself a spiritual specialty within medicine. But I want to add the word spiritual just to make it much more bolder, to highlight the spiritual aspect. Um, uh, the learning objectives is by end of this presentation, participants will understand the concept of Dharma Yuddha in Indian religious scriptures. I said Indian religious because I have used examples from Hindu scriptures of Ramayana and Mahabharata, but I believe that it applies to every dharma as a moral values that can be seen in any other religious tradition. I will illustrate very briefly a few examples of ethical ambiguities within warfare or within in the context of interpersonal battles between individual warriors in the scriptural narratives. And then I will compare with clinical care interactions with my own personal clinical care interactions with patients who have experienced war and suffering from PTSD. And then finally, of course, I will comment on how we can improve the morality of the current warfare and moral strength of our warriors in the current world. Modern warfare are increasingly fought between countries which are based on religious ideologies. So they get into war. At the background, it may be a show of power in the region, or physical power or military might, and or may also be because of economic or financial reasons. But religious, spiritual ideologies, they also imbue the vigor into their you and I versus mentality, which goes behind in wars. Okay, and without going unsaid, it says use of drones, snipers, remote targeting, or use of mass destruction weapons. They have become part of the modern warfare, and how such warfare dehumanizes the very principles for which a dharma, a righteous war, is fought. Many veterans suffer from, at an individual level, many veteran fighters suffer from guilt, shame, moral loss, spiritual crisis, loss of meaning and purpose in their profession. Of course, they're all professionals as the warriors, and finally, which all can be clubbed into, of course, many other symptoms to make it a PTSD. Ancient Indian epics, particularly Mahabharata and Ramayana, the war books of those two major epic scriptures, they have explored these issues thousands of years ago, and they still are valid in the current world. So I had an opportunity very early in my training as a clinical chaplain. After finishing my psychiatry, I joined clinical chaplaincy to learn what is an evidence-based approach to spirituality, and what is a spiritual care approach in psychiatry. So I had an opportunity to meet with a war veteran. He was from the from the Kuwait War, and he told me how he felt sad and depressed because he was a sniper and he could shoot his enemies, seeing their face and seeing what they're doing from a distance, and they were not aware of his presence at all, and he was able to shoot and kill his enemies. And he told me how he felt sad and depressed because he is shooting people without them being unaware they're in their innocent life situation, sipping a cup of coffee or something like that. And that provoked my interest in studying PTSD through the spiritual care angle, because I was at that point, I was a clinical chaplain, and that was the start of my interest in this area. Bhagavad Gita talks about similar such questions raised by one of the famous warriors of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna. Okay, he asks, "Why should I kill people? What is the benefit of this war? I don't want I don't want to win such a war where there are several losses of my near and dear ones." So his questions were coming from his moral consciousness. So the first psychological causality of war is often the warrior's soul. So it's for the health of a warrior, it's important for us to understand understand how the soul or spirit suffers in a war, of the fighters. Not only, of course, the major losses of lives of the innocent people in a war of the current world, where thousands gets displaced, as Vipul and others have already described. So, a Dharma Yuddha, or the holy righteous war, stands for justice, honor, restraint, protection, duty, etc. While Dharma or non-righteous wars stand for revenge, hatred, deception, cruelty, exploitation. So the epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata repeatedly demonstrates that the real war often blurs these boundaries of what is good and what is not so good, or holy was not so holy. The Ramayana talks about Rama hitting and killing Vali, hiding through 7 layers of huge tall trees, and then after he downs Wally, he approaches him, he converses with him. There's a big conversation described in Ramayana. Similarly, there's a story of Rama after killing Ravana. Okay, there's a conversation happening between Rama and Ravana, talking about what is good and bad of Ravana, telling Rama the right and wrong things that he has done and about his current fate. Similarly, there are examples of adharma, killing of Bhishma, with keeping Shikhandi, a transgender male, as a shield. And after Bhishma falls down, Arjuna, who had shot Bhima with Shikhandi as a shield, approaches, and everybody else approach Bhishma for pardon and for wisdom. Similar story of killing Drona, one of the great archers, warriors, by disarming him, by lying, saying that your son is killed. Of course, it's half statement. Your son is killed. The name Ashwatthama is killed. Whether it's an elephant which is killed with the name of Ashwatthama, or whether it's a person. So there's a deceit there. And after Drona, the great archer, he drops all his weapons and sits in meditation. His head is chopped off. So there are always moral questions of how to win a war, or how the war is won. Okay, and there are consequences. So moral injury is when person violates their deep moral beliefs, who carries these deep moral beliefs and sacred values and core identities, and then he or she does in the war acts that go against their own beliefs and values, and then they suffer from guilt, shame, and spiritual conflicts. Okay, and they suffer. There are consequences also mentioned in the scriptures. There's one similar story of how Arjuna kills Karna, one of his prime opponents. Okay, when he's not armed, when he's trying to rescue his wheeled chariot out of the ground. So Krishna justifies in this war, even in the war in Ramayana, Rama justifies his acts of why he killed Vali, because Vali had usurped his brother's kingdom and taken over brother's wife as his own queen. And here Krishna reminds Arjuna how Kauravas were not righteous up until this war, and so why and how we can kind of bypass the righteous acts within the war itself. So these are extraordinary insights that we get from the epic. Most importantly, what is righteousness in a war? Okay, transitioning to the modern warfare, moral injury has been a key area of research among moral injury among warriors, fighters, military men, is increasingly becoming important in our research, psychiatric research on PTSD. There are several publications. I will list a few of them at the end. Moral injury, Dr. Srivastava had described in depth, and also the neurobiology of it was described earlier by Vipul. Okay, in my case, again coming back to my case study, my veteran with PTSD, he said, "I know it was my duty to kill because I need to eliminate all my enemies, but I still see his face while he was not able to see. I would love to show my strength, military or physical strength as a fighter when I face my opponent face to face, and I want to beat him down. But here I was a sniper, and I was killing him from a distance. I was able to see his face, but he was not, and that was his moral struggle." So that was my patient, 68-year-old war veteran. Okay, here. The epics repeatedly ask what happens to the warrior after the battle ends. And so we are asking questions about what's happening in a military patient, a military war veteran in the current world with PTSD, how to heal his moral or spiritual injuries. Okay, so psychotherapy alone is insufficient. We need to have a moral or spiritual healing happen for these patients. Okay, ancient epics, I spoke about what modern psychiatry offers, but together we understanding all the religious spiritual aspects of the current war. I want to again redirect to the very essence or very reason that is putting so much energy and intentions for religiously inspired wars, the religion itself. Most importantly, the dogmatic approach to religious thinking. A clinical, evidence-based exploration of how spiritual principles in scriptures can dissolve the psychological root of modern warfare is important at this point. So here comes my most important part of my presentation. The root of modern conflict is dogmatic religiosity. While geopolitical wars are often motivated by resource, wealth, strategic territory, or pure power seeking, dogmatic religiosity is frequently weaponized to mobilize populations and justify violence. Dogmatism simplifies complex issues into a rigid, non-negotiable binary and absolute us versus them narrative that strips away empathy from the outgroup and facilitates mass destruction. dogmatic versus experiential spirit. Dogmatic mindset is defined clinically as a defensive psychological structure driven by a need for certainty, absolute truth, and group identity. Mechanisms involve absolutism, conditional acceptance of others, severe cognitive rigidity, and the strengthening of the tribal ego. True spiritual principles include rooted in profound self-transcendence, universal compassion, and direct experiential wisdom found within scriptures of all religious traditions. But we need to reach there to understand what are the empathy and compassionate messages in religious scriptures as such. Empathy, and compassion towards everyone, not just one particular group. Mechanisms of such a process requires dissolution of the individual and tribal ego, expansion of empathy, and high cognitive flexibility. Ancient scriptural wisdom comes only when we decode the core messages in each scripture, in the verses of a scripture. When examined beyond literalism, true scriptures teach a profound clinical science of consciousness. By shifting focus from dogmatic belief systems to the actual meditative self-transcending practices prescribed in the scriptures, individuals can dismantle the ego boundaries that feed conflict. Neurobiology of peace, putting in simple terms, mirror neuron mechanisms and all those things, they help in cognitive restructuring. Clinical studies prove that dogmatism is negatively correlated with analytical thinking and active perspective taking. Stress reduction is important. Spiritual contemplation and meditation significantly downregulate the amygdala, reducing biological fear and tribal hostility. Avenue for disarmament, de-escalating religious fundamentalism through clinical spiritual understanding directly undercuts societal tolerance for weapons of mass destruction. The number I gave here is, I'm not sure, I just made it up, 75%. I need to support with better published articles. So disarming the global mind, 75% reduction, bias reduction, can happen with shifting the cognitive rigidity. Clinical data indicates that secular, spiritually integrated therapies that emphasize ego transcendence show massive improvements in empathy and perspective taking for people from the other religious tradition, from nations which are running on different religious theologies, targeting the psychological you versus I or us versus them root mechanism effectively diffuses the aggressive mindset that drives populations to manufacture and utilize weapons of mass destructions. Healing the individual warfare is very important. That's where we learn what is spirituality in the suffering that we see, PTSD that we see among our patients. Mitigating moral injury is important. Combatants often suffer from moral injury, deep psychological distress caused by participating in actions that violate their fundamental moral codes. By moving from dogmatic narratives which crash under the reality of battlefield trauma to true scriptural spirituality focused on healing, forgiveness, and unity of you and I, warriors find a genuine path to post-traumatic growth. This is what we do as a spiritual care providers, as spiritual psychiatrists, when we meet a person with PTSD. Of course, we give various medications also. As a psychotherapeutic process, when we introduce spirituality, these are the things that we do. Provide an empathic listening presence. Final reflection, the deepest wounds of war are not always physical. They may be wounds to consciousness, meaning, and the soul. The Mahabharata and Ramayana scriptures teaches us all about the stuff that I have mentioned. Victory in battle does not guarantee peace within the military personnel who had won the battle. Clinical evidence-based religiosity and spirituality may improve our interreligious differences and mitigate the you versus I mentality in nations separated by religious ideology. These are a bunch of some of the references we have on war and moral injury or religious spiritual. I still have not published my own case study based paper. It's due, and I'll be happy to work with this group to